Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Living the Core. This is the 56th edition of Living the Core, and we're very happy to have Dr. T.V. Ramchandra with us. Since the beginning of this year on Living the Core, we are trying to go topic wise. Jan, we covered education, and Feb, it's water. And I've been trying to get in touch with Dr. TVR and have him in the show for a very long time, and I'm so happy that he actually graced us today. Before I kind of go ahead and formally introduce Dr. TVR, let's first welcome him to the show. Dr. TVR, welcome to the show.
Okay, thank you for inviting me. In fact, COVID had tied my leg, and also my family has put me in the Bangalore itself. So there was no way you could have missed me if you had contacted me.
Okay, yeah. So probably anyway. So you said COVID has got you to Bangalore, and it's a blessing to have in Bangalore. But you also say a lot that you love the Western Ghats, and that's where you rejuvenate yourself.
I still travel in Ghats, but my travel to abroad and other parts of the country has come down
Yeah.
during
So
last
let
almost a year.
so let me do some justice introducing you. Um, Dr. T.V. Ramchandra, also very popularly called as Dr. TVR in a lot of circles in Bangalore and across Karnataka for the beautiful work he's doing in water. He is the coordinator, Energy and Wetlands Research Group, Center of Ecological Sciences at the IISc. He's also the convener, Environmental Information Systems, and he's associate faculty, Center for Sustainable Technologies as Astra. What's really beautiful is TVR comes from the Western Ghats itself. Am I right, sir?
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Beautiful. And then he came to IISc to pursue his PhD, and he has been a part of such beautiful works right from his PhD days. I should say he has been associated with the Western Ghats, and he has contributed significantly in the Western Ghats. For a lot of his good works, he has been awarded. I should say beautifully, but the best is he's a recipient of the Parisara Award conferred by the government of Karnataka. And he's worked with a lot of NGO bodies, a lot of citizen groups, a lot of government bodies. And he's also the advisor for a lot of government bodies. Like he was a member of Karnataka State Level Environment Expert Appraisal Committee from 2007 to 10. And he is also a government of India and a member of Western Ghats Task Force appointed by the government of Karnataka. He's also part of many committees like the National Green Tribunal, which is related to wetlands in Bangalore. So mostly his work has been in the areas of energy. It's been in the areas of wetlands. And of course, a lot of his work is in the in solid waste management as well as urban planning areas. I really hope I got a little bit of essence of what his works are. I'm going to post his profile a little later on the comment section so that you kind of can actually dive deep onto it. What's really beautiful is TVR features in the 2% of top scientists in the recent global ranking of scientists. And if you start looking at the research papers and the kind of support he has rendered to many students who aspire for their masters and their doctoral works, it's commendable. I think it's close to around 150 students is what he has been guided. And he also supports a lot of students in embracing environment and educational initiatives. So if I have missed on anything, doctor, please fill in the course of the interview. But anything that you would want to say about your journey so far on this path from where you started doing your PhD in IISc to where you are today, what has been the major journey, like driving force in the journey, if I were to ask you?
No, the driving force in the journey is the youth surrounding me. In fact, they keep me active with the questions and this inquisitive behavior makes us to think and do something for the system. Okay.
Beautiful. So when you say youth, you also guide a lot of youth, and you also conduct the symposiums every 2 years once. It's called, just let me kind of bring that. It's
Lake
called
Symposium. Lake
Lake
Symposium.
Symposium.
Yeah.
So, what is it like? What's the intent of bringing a lot of youth again on the Lake Symposium?
So actually,
Um,
we started that symposium, unlike other researchers, I always felt that I get money from the public for our research. We are all publicly funded organizations. I need to be accountable. So that's where whatever the research done during the 2 years, we thought let us have a forum where we can share and so that it reaches to everyone, all the stakeholders. That I started in 98 and in 2000 it got the caption Lake 2000. That is where it became a popular. It is actually an international event. But uniqueness of this event organized by us is I have given a platform for the school and college students and teachers. Otherwise, they will never see this kind of deliberation happening among the top scientists across the globe and also within the India, and also the decision makers from the top level, from the state and central government. So that is where I felt that the students, younger brain, if they are with us, probably they know that what is the career path they should be taking. So that, but there is a challenge for the kids to take part in the international symposium. We need to mold them. We need to train them. So
mm,
that along with my regular research and teaching at ISC, I also do the orientation program for the school kids and college students. That is where it keeps us almost occupied throughout the year. And it is
Beautiful.
almost 98 this one, the 24 years the journey, the 12th event I organized in the last December, during 28th to 30th December, in spite of COVID. Probably this is the only the event which I had a hybrid mode. I took
Mhm,
advantage of the digital era. At the same time, I made sure my regular partners also come to the symposium. There
mm,
are people travel from other part of the country also. There were 40 people in the thing. And many youngsters came. One of the school was very keen to take part. About 10 students and the teacher came from Purna Pramati school in Bangalore, in the rural area of Bangalore. They took part all the days they were there. So, in fact, it was a good journey with all of them. At the same time, we could, whatever we deliberated, it has reached the government also. Now there were,
beautiful.
there were queries about the kind of the work what we did last. This one media carried forward, so that's where the knowledge dissemination has happened. The purpose is to share with the public and all
Mm,
the stakeholders what we have done during the 2 years, which has been I have been doing for the last 24 years. So and will continue to do. Okay.
beautiful. And I really love the part that you keep yourself accountable and you bring it in the public domain, the good works that you're doing. Because one is, yes, as an information, but the second part of it is people actually get to connect to the deep works that you're doing. It may be in the Western Ghats, okay, and it may be in Bangalore itself. And I was watching your TED talk on at Jain University, and it astonished me, when you showed the facts of the green Bangalore in 1973 to where it is in 2017. Would you really want to bring in, because a lot of our viewers may not have watched this and they may not even really be aware of how much the concretization that's happening in Bangalore is affecting our own oxygen supplies. And what hit me really hard is, for one person you need 6 or 7 trees, but there are, like, now it's just the opposite, like seven people are banking on one tree type. So would you want to sensitize a little about what is happening
Yeah, yeah.
around
In
the
fact,
urbanization?
that is where we have taken advantage of the technology. Remote sensing data is available. These are the pictures of the Earth taken from the satellite platform, which is available from 1970. The country is in the forefront as far as remote sensing technology is concerned. And of course, we are proud to have ISRO in Bangalore, so that's where we are benefited. And we are also contributing to the development of remote sensing technology in the country and in the globe. Now, when you use the data, you can see the spatial pattern of changes that is happening in the system. See, if you look at the way the Bangalore in the 70s, the 68% of Bangalore, the today Bangalore area is 740 square kilometers. If you look at in this 740 square kilometer, way back in 1800, we had 1452 interconnected water bodies and 82% green cover. Because of that, temperature in the Bangalore at that time during Kempegowda era was in the May month, that the peak summer month was 14 to 16 degrees Celsius. And today the temperature has gone up to 37 to 40 degrees Celsius. And for some days in the December, we had 0 degrees Celsius and we were growing apples in a place called Palace Archer closer to IISc. And today I have lost apple and I see the waste littering in the Bangalore that shows the erosion in the environment and also the behavior of the humans. Now the 68% green cover in 70s, if you look at, and we use the temporal remote sensing data to see how the changes have happened. And today, if you look at the 68% green cover and less than 3% was the urban area in the 740 square kilometers in 1970. And the region was, because of the green, it was aptly known as a garden city. In 2000, we thought about Singapore, converting Bangalore to Singapore. But I don't know the gentlemen who thought about Singapore. Probably they have achieved the success in making Bangalore a Singapura. Because when I go to the airport, I see a village named Singapura, where I see huge dumps of solid waste is being dumped. So if that is happening in Singapura, today the entire Bangalore is a kind of a waste dump. So that means the decision makers of 2000 have succeeded in making Bangalore a garbage city. That's how the city became garbage. And today, if you look at the urbanization, you see that 93% of the landscape is covered with buildings. Only 4% is covered with the vegetation or tree cover. And when you look at the number of trees that are there in a Bangalore, we did quantification using conventional method, that is by the field survey and also using remote sensing data. We saw that 14 lakh 58,000 trees are there in Bangalore for a population of 95 lakhs. That means for every 7%, one tree is there. You know, most of the Bangaloreans do not even know why the trees are required. And some of the Bangaloreans think that trees are a nuisance. When I see the letters to the editors in the dailies, I'm surprised to see such comments from the people saying that the particular tree in the near their home has to be removed, etc. I do not blame them because we have not made them to learn about the intricacies of environmental issues. You know, the environmental education should have been mandatory in our schools and colleges. And when we did a study of environmental literacy in Bangalore, you know, general literacy in Bangalore is quite high next to Mumbai. Mumbai is 88%, well, Bangalore is 85.7%. But when you look at environmental literacy, the Bangalore, if you look at it, is only 3.5% of Bangalorean are environmentally literate. That means 96% of the Bangalorean are environmentally illiterate. Because of that, we have the poor environmental state in Bangalore, which is evident from declining the vegetation and declining the health of the city, especially in the form of the lakes, etc. Lakes have been used to dump the liquid waste, and vacant land has been used to dump the solid waste, etc. Now, coming back to the number of trees in Bangalore, I said it's less than 3.5%, which is almost equivalent to the environmental literacy in the region. See, if you look at the district where I work, the Western Ghats, Uttara Kannada district has the environmental literacy of 55%, and there I see the vegetation cover of 60%. Shivamogga has environmental literacy of 45%. I see there is a vegetation cover or the forest cover of 44 to 45%, which is directly correlated according to my study. And
Beautiful.
if you want to know why trees are required, you know, we all breathe. I'm sure you are also breathing, I'm also breathing, and the audience are also breathing. When we breathe, we give out carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere is increasing, which is leading to warming of the earth. Consequence of the warming of the earth is the changes in climate. Now, to remove the carbon the footprint or the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we have water bodies where algae does the job. Similarly, the trees on the land or the vegetation on the land takes away the carbon and gives us the oxygen. Now, the implication of declining tree cover in the city is losing the oxygen level. Some of my colleagues who stay outside the campus, they use oxygen cylinder. So that means is the Bangalore is suffering not just the water scarcity, we are also do not have adequate level of oxygen. This we will realize it only when we are sick, when the oxygen levels become a deciding factor. That's why people have to in the age group of 55 plus they tend to use the oxygen. Now, if you see the trees which take away the carbon dioxide per hectare, about 6 to 7 tons of carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere by the trees. By that ratio, for every person, there is a requirement of 6 to 7 trees because when we breathe out, we give out the carbon dioxide to an extent of 540 to 980 grams per person per day. Okay, if you are young, 980 grams. If you are aged, the 540 grams per person per day. By that ratio, we need to have a 7 the trees per person. But what we have in Bangalore is reverse of that. Fortunately, after I released that report, which was a study done because the Pollution Control Board chairman at that time, Vamnacharya, requested us to do the study. We carried out the detailed study. Now, after seeing the report, Adame Chaitanya took up a Green Sunday program, and today they have, the sustained effort for the last 280 or 300 Sundays. They have done the planting in the various localities, and also in the process, the many people they also understood the importance of the trees. I had an opportunity because Adame Chaitanya came to the campus on 100th Sunday, then 250th Sunday, we could plant. In fact, one of my colleagues, when he passed away, people perform rituals or other kind of program. But what I did is, I just requested the school kids to come to the campus. In his memory, we planted 500 saplings of ficus species. You see the religious Ashwat Mara and Alad Mara, all those things. That is what I planted, and none of them, had any problem. It's almost 3 years now. All of them have survived. When I go there, I remember my colleague, Mr. Harish Bhatt, and at the same time, I'm happy we had an opportunity to give the another green patch to the youngsters in the campus.
Beautiful.
So now, when you look at the Bangalore, what is likely to happen in 2025? We predicted that also. 98.5% of Bangalore landscape is going to be choked with a concrete. This is the development. I would say that we should stop it. We need to decongest Bangalore if we are worried of our children. Our children have a right to have a clean air, clean water, and environment. In the name of development, we are depriving them the clean air, clean water, and the clean environment. That is the greatest injustice we are doing to the children. Innocently the children are taking the poisons in the day-to-day life. In fact, when I go to the vicinity of Vattur and Belandur Lake, I'm so pained to see the falling health standards among the kids. When I analyze the water sample of Belandur and Vattur, and the fish that grows in the lake, when we analyze that, and also people grow vegetable in the downstream. We collected the vegetables also, and also the green plant which grows in the lake as the water hyacinth etc. goes as a fodder. We collected the milk sample. All these samples, starting from fish to the vegetable to the milk or the green plant, the pudina, spinach, all had heavy metal. That means heavy metal due to pollutant in the system because of the irresponsible industrialists dumping the pollutant into the environment. In the process, the pollutant are getting into our food chain. So the implications are increasing instances of cancer and the kidney failure in Bangalore. As per the statistics I have, kidney failure, which was 1 in 1 lakh about 12 or 13 years back, today is 1 in 5,000. I was so pained to see a school kid, the LKG kid, last year losing one kidney. and 8th standard kid losing both the kidneys, the thing. When I look at their family background, both the parents are either working as a coolie or a clerk. Below poverty level, they cannot even spend the money for the dialysis of the child. Which costs about 1,500 to 2,000 rupees per week. So this is the kind of the situation we have created in Bangalore because of our the greediness. My question is development at what cost? If development is giving unhealthy environment for the citizens, I don't want that development. The healthy citizens or healthy youth are the asset to my nation. We need
Absolutely.
to give the help to the youth. We don't have to give them a currency. That is what the first thing as elders, if we make sure that our children have the health, they know how to survive. If we deprive them their health by contaminating the environment in the name of increasing GDP, which is a gross distorted product, not the gross domestic product, that is where we need to make a rethinking on our economic the parameters like GDP, etc. The country has to change. Our country should stand in the forefront and make sure that everyone are healthy and wealthy. If there is a health, there is a wealth. Otherwise, only the doctors become wealthy, not the citizens. That's where all these commercial hospitals in Bangalore are looting. Making if you go for a simple thing, you end up spending a lakh or so. So that is where we have to, as a citizens, we need to assert. We need to tell the government what we need is the health for our children. Please do not contaminate the air, water, or the land. When you contaminate, then our children pay the heavy price. That is what we need to assert. But where are the people to assert? Everyone is busy with the mobile.
And
Everyone is
making money.
busy in this. But that is where they have lost reading, the habit. In the process, they are all masters of the youth. You have that all those chat university or the WhatsApp universities with the fake news, and people are becoming fake. If you have to change that, this kind of orientation program might help in sensitizing the youth so that we can have a responsible youth for the country. For the country
Absolutely.
to prosper, we need to have a sensible citizens. When people are sensible, they will be responsible. They will never think ill of the country. They will think of the making the country proud and prosperous. Okay?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for such deep insights on one as citizens, what is it that we really need to awaken to, and second on the youth, and how sensitizing the youth, educating the youth is a great way forward. So now I kind of move to another aspect of the beautiful work that you've done, and something that caught me very deeply was how you have kind of given respect to our, you know, resources, natural resources, and given them an economical value in the Western Ghats in different aspects when you've worked. How, including, it's like, you know, the resources. Wait, let me just actually get into the. You have said assessing the kind of resources in the Uttar Kannada itself. You have said that what is the value that the forest resources is contributing to the GDP. Can you just add on a little more to that? Because a lot of times we don't value our natural resources, we don't value the Western Ghats or our forest ecosystem the way we have to, in the name of urbanization, not urbanization, in the name of developing infrastructure and kind of growing the economy.
See, that is where I talked about GDP. You know, I would say that GDP is actually a gross distorted product. It does not take into account the worth of the natural resources. That's where I've been pushing the agenda that natural capital accounting has to happen in the country. If you look at the district where I have worked for the last 2.5 decades, the district has a distinction of having the highest forest cover in the country to an extent of 80%. Okay, even in that district, I see the evergreen forest, which were 63%. Today is about 30%. In the name of development, we are pushing all the developmental projects even in that district, which is supposed to be protected. Okay. Now, if you want to see what is the kind of the resources people get from the forest, Let us find out the goods in the form of timber, fuel wood, the water, then non-timber forest produce like spices, etc. When we quantify that, we were surprised to see in a district of 10,000 square kilometer, where the forest is about 70%, the revenue is about 9,600 crores per year. Now let's look at the GDP, what the bureaucrats do calculate. Every year they have a financial, the budget, all those things. When I look at the GDP of the district, it is about 5,800 crores. In that 5,800 crore, I try to look at what is the contribution by the forest sector they have accounted. They have accounted only 180 crores for the forest sector. 180 crores, that is only in the form of fuel wood. But there are other values, the thing which deliberately they have left it out. So this has led to the pilferages. When I do the accounting, I'm getting 9,000 crores to 15,000 crores. When Babus do it, it's 180 crores. How this affects the regional economy. See, if you are showing the contribution from a particular sector, if the 10% of that comes back to the district, you can have the development. Say 9,000 crore, 10% of it, you have about, 90 crores or so. Now 180 crores, you see that what is 1% or 10% of that? That's where
Hmm.
the district never gets any kind of the benefit. And all along, people said forest is a useless thing, doesn't give anything. But my studies have shown forest is giving the livelihood to the people, and for the farmers, it's giving the livelihood in the. Say, when I did a study in Uttara Kannada and Shivamogga district and Chikmagalur, in the vicinity of the forest, the farmers, their livelihood versus the farmers in the vicinity of the so-called developed region where monoculture plantation of rubber, acacia, eucalyptus is there. When I did the study, I was surprised to see people who are in the vicinity of the forest, which are the native species of forest, they were getting the revenue in the about rupees 1,50,000 rupees, 1,54,000 rupees per acre per year. Whereas the farmers in the vicinity of the monoculture plantation or degraded forest, they were getting only 32,000 rupees per acre per year. Now, what could be the reason? Because, people in the vicinity of the native forest, their streams and wells have water throughout the year. Because of that, they can grow the tree crop. Whereas in the vicinity of the monoculture plantation or degraded landscape, they do not have water throughout the year. It is only during the monsoon. That means the water is a decisive factor here. That's what I demonstrated. And also we did a study to see how much, when it rains, how much water goes to the underlying layer. About 45 to 50% of the water, the precipitation or the rain goes in the underlying layer. That 50% comes to the river or stream after the monsoon. You have rain for the 4 months. After monsoon, whatever the water that we have deposited in the underlying layers will come to the river or stream or lake or well for the next 6 to 8 months. So that's how these streams in the Uttara Kannada and Shivamogga had water all 12 months. Because of that, the farmers can grow their three crops. And more importantly, when you have a native forest or forest with native species of vegetation, you have the very good number of diverse pollinators. Because of that pollination, the yield in the crop is higher, while in the vicinity of monoculture plantation, maybe in your district, Tumkur also this is true, in the degraded landscape, pollinators are very minimal. That's where the productivity of the crop is also low. That is how you see this get reflected in the revenue for the farmers in the form of 32,000 rupees per acre per year for the farmers in the vicinity of the degraded landscape to 1,54,000 rupees per acre per year in the vicinity of native forest. When we respect Mother Nature, normally we all respect our mother. Those who respect mother at home will also respect Mother Nature. When we respect Mother Nature, we have the food, we have the wealth. Even in the families where the children or the youth or the people of my age respect mother, you see the wealth and happiness in the family. Where the mother is not respected or ill treated, you see the conflicts and that kind of thing. Erosion in the value system or erosion in the family system also is a root cause for degradation of our landscape. That's what I noticed. That is where I link that with the environmental literacy. Finally, the farmers have to survive. 60% of our country are the agrarian. 60% of the people, if they are dependent on the farming, they need to have a sustainable livelihood. If we deprive them the water and pollinator, naturally their livelihood get affected. This is what, as a decision makers, we need to understand and make sure. Just because we was greedy, we should not deprive the farmers their right to live. As I have
True.
been telling that we should make sure that everyone live along with us. That is the sustainability. That is the concept we should promote. Not make few people to survive, greedy people at the cost of others. We need to remove this anomaly in the system. That is where
Absolutely.
science and technology helps in that. Our agenda was to bring this kind of insights to the people. If you look at the literature from the West, deliberately they said forest will remove the water. My study just brings out these linkages. That is what our elders had talked about it. If you look at Rigveda or any of our Asian scriptures, the importance of water is talked about it. Importance of trees have been talked about it. See, when I read Bible, there is a mention of importance of trees and nature conservation at least 702 times.
Wow.
Okay. When I look at Quran warns us of the imminent war if we
Mhm.
contaminate the water. So that's why, to bring awareness among the citizens, among the devotees. What they did is, if you go to Dargah, you have to wash your feet and fingers with a clean water. You have to draw the water from the well and you have to wash before you enter the Dargah. That means they thought that when we practice that in the Dargah, we will also implement the same thing at home. We will not allow the contamination to happen. Now, when you look
Beautiful.
at our literature, for example, Matsya Purana talks about the linkages so aptly. If you have a well at home, you are wealthy because you have enough water. 10 wells are equal to one reservoir, or this one. 10 or one lake. 10 lakes are equal to one reservoir, and 10 reservoirs are equal to one child, and 10 children are equal to one tree. The benefit of nurturing the the children is equivalent to planting and nurturing a tree. Now I'll put it other way. When you cut a tree or when you think of trimming the tree, you are harming your own children. This is what our literatures have talked about it. This is what even Mahatma Gandhi talked about it. If you look at the concept of Surajya, is giving a clean air and water to everyone, equitable distribution of natural resources, not to make one person rich at the cost of hundreds of other people. The country should think of sustainability of natural resources. That is where the planning is required. That's where science and technology helps in that regard. Okay.
Beautiful. So such deep insights, and yeah, for us as parents and to connect with lakes, to trees, and to children, it's a very beautiful connect. And if we can kind of get a message, it's like taking care of a tree is like taking care of children, and harming a tree is also harming a child. So thank you for that analogy. So it's really very powerful. My next question is, when you started your work, when you started doing your PhD, you kind of worked on the first project on this dam, right? So Magot Dam. What was your experience? Because your work seemed to have kind of really reduced the land that gets submerged when a dam is formed. One is that land was not submerged. A lot of land was not submerged, and the second part of it is you managed to, or rather, the work managed to bring in much more electricity than what the proposed project had intended to. So would you want to throw some light around how did you guys go about doing that research, and how did you enroll the government into it?
No, in fact, that is where I understood the linkages. When I started my journey after my bachelor degree at IISc, you know, I started working in Western Ghats. So my work was on renewable energy. I was looking at the various alternatives, sustainable energy alternatives. I was working on micro mini hydel projects. That is the time there was a protest in Uttar Kannada district against the Betty and the large scale project, the dam projects, etc. Incidentally, there was a project at Magod where it would have submerged 10,000 hectares of forest land. So the farmers approached, the local citizens approached me when I was doing the study. They said that whether I can come up with a viable alternative. Should we say no to the dam? Or if we are saying, then what should be our strategy? Then what I did is I did a detailed study how to reduce the damage to the environment. So one way I realized that if I store the water that is required for the region, the amount of electricity which is required for the region, if I store that equivalent water in the dam, probably I am also meeting the local demand. So then during the season when there is abundant water, let me generate electricity in the runoff river scheme. That means
Mm-hmm.
without dam. And then store water which is required for the local people for the irrigation and for the electricity. So that's where 107-meter height dam, I brought it down to 67 meters. Of course, there was a lot of iterations and the scientific analysis was there. But in the process, the submergence area came to the 560 hectares. See, and if you look at this one, the electricity, we are not reducing the amount of electricity you would have generated. The Karnataka Power Corporation said they can generate 812 million units, whereas my proposal brings out almost equivalent to that 815 million units. And more importantly, since I have saved the forest of 9,500 hectares, I have another 200 million units of the energy there. In addition to that, I also identified the location where one can have mini, micro, smaller hydel projects, both in Gangavali or a Berti river basin and Aganashni basin. So which would add another, the 200 megawatt equivalent to this one. So that is where one can come up with the integrated approach, a viable alternative by optimally utilizing the resources. So I have provided electricity. At the same time, I made sure people who are dependent on fuel wood are not deprived of the fuel wood because 9,500 hectares of the forest land is still preserved
In
there.
fact,
So and mini micro hydel project, all those things. At the same time, when I was working there in 90s, that is the time the solar energy was very at the initial stage. At our institute, Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology, we were pushing the solar water heater. I was taking the brochure printed at KSCSD. I was going to the villages and all. At the time, some of the people, there are in our system, I always tell there are very buddhivantas are there. They started criticizing me, saying that this man is wasting his time talking to the people about the thing. But today, in the same taluk, I see almost 60 to 70% penetration of solar energy. That is the kind of the success and knowledge dissemination that happens in the thing. And whatever I learned in that district, when my students came to my lab as an intern, I asked them to analyze the solar potential for the entire country. We mapped the hot spots of solar energy for the entire country where we can have the harvesting of solar energy on priority.
mhm.
For information, our country's solar program depends on that work. Now,
Wow.
today I see that there is a large scale dissemination of the solar devices in the country, and Prime Minister has taken it one step forward. He also was instrumental in having Solar Energy Alliance, and there's a large scale power plants have come up. And Karnataka has the distinction of having a 2,000 megawatt solar project at Pavagada. And of course, we have in
Beautiful.
other districts like Kolar, Mandya, etc. So that way, simple analysis can give a bigger dividends also. Okay.
Beautiful.
So these are some of the things when we did, and today my students are looking at the biosphere. This is, when you are in the, the bathroom when you sleep, it is because of the pachi or the algae growth in the on the floor of the river. You just collect that algae, and you will be surprised to see that algae has the oil content. That oil content, that this we call it as diatoms of millions years of back. which are deposited in the ocean, today you have petrol.
Oh,
That millions of years I am trying to cut down that. That is where I myself and my collaborator we came up with a paper called milking diatom to reduce
wow.
the time so that as you milk cow, if you can also get oil from diatom on a daily basis, we thought that that is going to be the important innovation or the breakthrough in our thing. That is where we started looking at what kind of species are there in the system. That is where I started looking at the biological system, and my students started looking at what species are there, which one has a higher potential, how to optimize that. And today, a couple of students are working on biofuel in my lab, and we
Yeah.
have succeeded in getting the ethanol from macroalgae, while the microalgae, which has the liquid, we are trying to see that whether we can optimally convert into biofuel. So when you look at the country, you see that 65% of our population are youth. We have abundant solar energy. If I harvest youth power with solar energy and biofuel for transport sector, I'm making my country the developed country. This is the vision we have, and this is what we are working for. And of course, this is a challenging task, and my students are have joined hands with me, and we are trying to succeed. And I hope we will do that.
You
And
will, sir,
eventually, we will have a
definitely.
biofuel in the system. And fortunately, today, Government of India has come up with the innovative biofuel policy, which
Yeah.
encourages the blending of ethanol with the thing. See, that is where the agriculture residues which were used to be get burned in agriculture field and creating the havoc in the environment, in the pollution, air pollution, etc. Today, there's a hope to convert into ethanol. The technology is there. So that's what one of my students worked on the agriculture residue, how through the biological route we can have the ethanol. See, to manufacture ethanol from the agriculture residue, there are chemical processing. We know that chemical processing will involve the contaminate the environment. We thought that let us look at how the biological organism also help in the thing. Because
Mm-hmm.
ethanol
Mm-hmm.
requires the two stages. One is to break the sugar, polysugar. The second is to ferment it. For fermentation, we identified the yeast organism which does a
Mm-hmm.
good job. So that
Mm-hmm.
is what my student recent thesis is on. So we have succeeded on that. And when they presented this in the Lake Symposium, it got a wide attention. When I talked about natural capital accounting, it got a wide attention. Equally, this topic also got a wide attention. Even today, people are posing the question, saying that how much resources we have, how we can convert that into ethanol. And for information, Uttar Pradesh government, if you have seen the advertisement, have successfully are converting the bioresidues, especially the sugarcane, etc., into ethanol. Ethanol is a good sanitizer. In the era of Corona or COVID, you need sanitizers. So that way, the waste converted into wealth also comes handy to all of us. We can keep the virus away. So let us
Beautiful.
convert the waste into the virus resistant too. So that's our agenda. Okay.
Beautiful, so beautiful. So I have a few more questions. One is on the cluster-based development approach that really caught my attention because, in the name of industrialization, we kind of want to create industrial belts in other districts and taluks and kind of harm the natural ecosystem and the farming culture of that place, right? So, would you want to talk about that? Because it's really interesting that if a region is known to grow mango or a jackfruit, they rather grow that and earn more money than having other industries getting into that. So, would you want to share your insights?
Correct. This is where we understood when I was started working on urbanization, impact of urbanization. I travel extensively. When I went to the Tamil Nadu, I saw there is a triangular the cities. That means the cities on the triangular nodes. You
Mm-hmm.
know, Tanjavur, Kumbakonam, and Tiruvallur. Okay. Now, when I see these cities or towns have industries, but because the infrastructure is so good, people from the villages come to the town, they work in industry, they go back home, and then in the weekend they do the farming. Okay. Now, what I am proposing in Karnataka or other parts of the country is instead of putting all the industries in Bangalore, let us go to the districts or taluk. What kind of resources are there in that district? Let us set up an agro processing industry.
Mm.
In a district where only intelligent kids are there, let us have a software sector. Could be
Mm.
Dharwad or Mangalore kind of thing. This is called cluster-based development. Depending on the cluster of villages, what kind of resources are available, you will have the developmental part. So that the youth, instead of coming to Bangalore, they can work in the industry in their neighborhood and can do the farming. So the country gets a benefit from this dual thing because talented youth, instead of coming to Bangalore and struggling and suffering in Bangalore or cities like Bangalore, they can stay at home with their parents and take care of the parents. Otherwise, today, because of this large scale migration, I see the many elders are alone at home. So we need to change this. That is what Mahatma Gandhi in his Surajya talked about it. He said, "Go local, be vocal, and go global." This is what even Prime
Wow.
Minister is talking about. So that means cluster-based developmental, the the whatever the paradigm we are talking about, the genesis is in Surajya. Let us make every village or panchayat empowered with the appropriate development. Than making some pocket like Bangalore, Mumbai getting congested as the so-called development with unlivable conditions. If we make the villages, we'll have sensible youth in the villages who will take care of the parents and they will earn. And they will also, because they are all talented, they can also send the product global. So that is where
Beautiful.
the vision of be local and go global also will achieve with that. So that is where cluster-based developmental path is the best path for a country like India. And we should not look at the Western culture.
Models.
We should not
Absolutely.
look at the Western model, whether both culture and model are bad for us. Let us
True.
respect our
Be
culture. Let us protect our culture and practice our culture so that our
equal.
children are also will be culturally sound. That's what we
Absolutely.
require.
We have our
When
own identity.
yeah,
Not
when
with
we have our
what
own identity and when we have our own culture, everyone will be happy. If you go
we're at
back
home
40,
in our
yeah,
soul.
yeah, 30 years back or 40 years back, kind of joint family system, what kind of happiness was there?
Exactly.
Today, the moment a marriage happens, they will think of
Nuclear setups.
splitting the family. That shows we are losing our connect with the nature. If you have looked at the nature, all organisms live symbiotically. That is what the joint family. There is a give and take in the family. Never a human being become a selfish or will become a selfish is there. Only the people who are disconnected from nature, they also get disconnected from mother. And that is where the family erosion happens. Today there are conflicts in the family. Everyone wants to have the ego clashes. But that is mainly because of this kind of disconnect. If you do the comparative assessment of joint family versus nuclear family, the children who are brought up in joint family are more sensible and more talented and intelligent compared to the children who are born and brought up in the boxes.
Yeah. So that's where
That
the
is
EQ and the IQ comes in.
yeah, that is right.
I
Since you are
personally
talking
value
about
EQ
children,
more than the IQ.
yeah, that's true.
Beautiful. So one question that's popping up is who's been your inspiration? So because I see you being really courageous, you call a spade, and you really, when you have to voice yourself, you voice yourself. You don't mince yourself, and you're so rooted in your value systems as well. And so it's like who has been your inspiration, and where? I mean, what is it that you connect with for your inner growth?
No, actually, that probably I'm a bit lucky. I had a right mother. I was brought up in a right environment, the Western Ghats. At the same time, I had a right teacher. You know, in fact, couple of teachers in the primary and middle school, they had told me what I should be doing. In
Beautiful.
fact, one of the teachers told me that, you know, you will send your children to the school. If you expect your child to come home at 5 o'clock when the school closes. But my teacher asked me to take a class for the kids who are slightly below their this. They were not coping up with the other kids in the class. Myself and my other colleagues in the class were supposed to take this special class for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In fact, everyone thought that my mother will resist. But my mother said that, see, if you do it at this age, the capacity building is happening. So that is where you should take the challenges. And second thing is, all of us have spinal cord. When we have spinal cord, why should we fear? When you have spinal cord and knowledge, such people should never keep quiet. Any atrocity, any illogical discussion, any illogical thing, we should raise our voice. Of course, there are threats. In fact, probably if I were in Delhi in a political circle, I should have been given a Z category. But I face a similar crisis in Bangalore also, especially from the mafia. When I talk about certain lake encroachment or the lake pollution, I'm sure I get a phone call. In fact, when I get a phone call, one gentleman told me that you will not see the sun tomorrow. I'm equally witty. I asked him, what are you referring to? SUN or SON? If you are referring to SUN, sun, I will tell you that tomorrow is going to be cloudy day. Neither you will see the sun nor I will see the sun. The message given to him was, before you do anything to me, think of your own security. So that's where the thing. In fact, even in one of the projects which had the large scale transfer of contaminated water to the neighboring district, I said that water is contaminated. The state administration was against it. The mafia behind this water supply, the pipe network and all those things, contractors were against me. When I went to the field, I was attacked. They were wearing a green shawl on their shoulder to say they are farmers, but later it turned out to be they were not farmers. The goons were wearing the shawls. That day, I had a hope in the system. That is mainly because the society, the people who are from the society, they formed a shield. Okay, they protected me. That is what we understood. When you are doing good work, you don't have to fear. So the society will give the shield. You don't need a Z category or the Y category of protection. Z and Y categories are required only for the people who do not have the societal support. When you have society behind you, you don't have to fight. But at the same time, you should not take advantage of their support. You need to be cautious. You need to be careful. You need to think of tomorrow before you act today. If you don't do it, the mistake committed today could be the major mistake for tomorrow. So that's what one has to have a cautious part. At the same time, understand the responsibility. When people ask for the thing, you can deliver. So if you do that, certainly people will remember. Probably that is what is happening in the system today. If you are referring to my name, it is because of the wishes of the people. In fact, large section of the people follow me. Large section of the people call me. In fact, they appreciate the kind of work done. That encourages us. The way the mother at home or a spouse at home, the, equally the public also supports.
Yeah.
Even the criticism from the public helps the researchers like me. See, I'm not carried away by the appreciation. When somebody criticizes my work, I always thank them because they are giving me the fodder for tomorrow. Because of their criticism, I found the gap in my work so that I can rectify in the next part. So that is where the criticism helps in every researcher's or scientist's career. We should seek for criticism. People should criticize, then it makes us perfect. If we have only appreciation, then probably we may not do better.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there should be checks and the balances in the system. That is where when we interact with the society, it happens. You all know that Indian Institute of Science came to Bangalore because of the Maharaja and Vivekananda and Tata. One of the commitments was the IISc to the Bangalore or Karnataka was that we will do society relevant research. I'm quite happy that my group and like me many in the campus are successful in addressing many of the societal issues. When people talk about IISc as Ivory Tower, I would say while at Ivory Tower, we could also look at the people, understand their problem, and do the intervention, which also gives the happiness in the system. That is what the research organization is supposed to do. That is where we may do the capacity building of the people and we disseminate the knowledge. I also write in the media, I write in the newspaper. Sometimes people interview me. So that's where the knowledge sharing happens at all levels. In addition to the school program, I also offer a course at IISc for people working in industries and universities and other institutions. That course is on environmental management and solid waste management.
Mm-hmm.
That is 18 years I have conducted the course. In each batch, I had students of the strength 40 to 50. And I had a distinction of having students like wing commanders and general managers, CEOs as my students. That's how the network is developed. And today, I have the happiness of giving those talented people to the system. In fact, people who are working in audit office, after taking my course, today they are working as environmental auditors.
Beautiful.
So these are the kinds of changes that has happened in the system. And in addition to that, people invite me for various programs. If the invitation is from the school, I have not said no to the any school till today. Schools and colleges were I had given the prior importance, and sometimes on the weekends we have spent in the schools. Not just me, my team members, my students, and my other colleagues also we have spent in the schools. So my hope or our hope is the youngsters of today, because we have to tell the world India is a country everyone should respect. We had our respect earlier, but after colonial rulers came to our country, we were fascinated by the colonial culture. Colonial culture is loot and be happy, make merry. But our culture keep everyone happy and keep the resources also sustainable. So that's what we are looking forward. In fact, when I talked about natural capital accounting, the small work what I did in Uttara Kannada, Western Ghats, today we are doing that for the entire Karnataka. The
Wow.
natural capital accounting for the entire Karnataka. Today I have the knowledge of each district, what kind of resources are there, and what kind of development one can have. In fact, last June I was invited for a conference at United Nations,
Mm-hmm.
along with the officials from Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation and Ministry of Environment and Forest. I attended that event. When I gave a presentation, when I said my country, the resources, everyone got excited. When I presented Uttara Kannada, they said
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. So that means Indians have the capability to tell the globe what is to be done and how to do that. That is our challenge. That kind of talent we should allow in our country to continue. We should nurture. We need to identify those youngsters, equip them. We should remove all the bureaucratic hurdles. There are bureaucracy. They think that they are there to trouble the system, but the bureaucrats are required to facilitate. They are not there to put a break or block in the system. The Indian bureaucracy has to change, facilitate create the system or the working environment where there are no hurdles for any youngsters to do a good job. If I have done this job, if it is appreciated, I would give a credit to the Indian Institute of Science. My institute gives the academic freedom and intellectual liberty to all faculty and students. Because of that academic freedom, we can do diverse things, we can show the world what we can do. But at the same time, there's a challenge there, there's a risk. If you fail, we may have to face the music. But when you have the will to face the world, you will never take a back step. So that's what we have been doing. That's what I learned from ISC, the working environment. In fact, I have worked for the last 25 years on all days. I have not looked at the red letters in my calendar. Myself, my students have been working at on an average of 12 to 14 hours a day. Even after that, when we sleep, so I have seen people struggling to sleep. For us, sleep comes hunting for us. That is mainly because we have given enough work to the brain to think. When we think positively, that positive energy makes people to sleep happily. That's why
Beautiful.
you never see a scientist depending on any the sleeping pills
Pills.
or a thing. People who are unemployed probably may have to get into that. So if you want to keep your child happy, keep her or him engaged. That's what my mother did. That's what my teachers did when I was at the young age. So that's where, when I was in school, I never took leave. I was a class leader also. So that kind of responsibility has made me to grow like this. So that children, teachers, the way they mold their children will decide their career. So the right school, not in the name of tags of international schools, a good government school also with a good teacher will change the world.
Absolutely.
I had the
So,
distinction of having my the initial education in the government school, but today I can talk better than the kids who have been graduated from so-called international schools. In fact, I would also share another small thing. When we were graduated, 32 of us were in the class. All of us had got the opportunity to go abroad, either for a job or higher studies. That is the time we were all discussing what is to be done. Everyone decided to go abroad. But I told them that if I go abroad, I will go only as expert. I will never go abroad as a slave. I will not make my country to save one paisa for me. Rather, I will make other country to spend. And today, I have visited many countries. I have not spent one paisa on my travel, nor I have taken travel grant from the government of India or from the government of Karnataka. It is all given by other government and other the inviting institutions. So, and when we meet, myself, my classmates, after 20 or 25 years, all my classmates have gone to the higher heights in the respective countries. They have become CEOs, general managers, etc. But when we meet, one thing they keep telling me is that the decision what I took 25 years back was the most appropriate one, because they said that they all have wealth, but they do not have health. But when they look at me, they say that you have health, you have wealth, and also the fame. Richness and the fame both go together in me. This can happen only to the people who think of their country. When you think of your mother, when you think of your country, when you think of your mother, you never think of leaving your country. People who want to leave the country are the ones who never respected their mother. I'm not saying that children should never go abroad. Children should go abroad, should have exposure. But becoming a slave in that country and draining our resources to that country is not the right path. Our country requires a talented youngster. Even if we are paid less, I would say that we should take up the challenging task in the country like India and make our country proud. This is what the youngsters of today have to understand. And this is what I look forward for the youngsters to follow. So this is what Vivekananda also said. Rise today. Think of your country. You will be more powerful and happy tomorrow. Okay?
beautiful. Thank you so much, sirs. You got in so many deep insights. One is on the youth, a lot reflected on the parenting part of it, me being a mother, and a lot reflected on the role of a mother itself, like how your mother kind of molded you into, you being busy and you being engaged and you taking on things beyond your comfort zone. That is one aspect of it. I think there's a lot of good insights for we as parents, and what you brought in again on the because a lot we all go for tax in schools, and when I say tax, the international school, and we really want to have these beautiful brands in where our children grow in. One is because we ourselves are not very clear whether we can offer things to them. Okay, so that clarity is not there in parenting. Would you want to tell a little about what is your advice for parents? The reason why I'm asking this, because we seem to be a lost crowd ourselves sometimes. So this is the last question.
No, no. You have to think of your children, whether you want to make the child machine or the human being. If you want to make the child as a machine, put them in a caged environment where children are go in a restricted path. They do not think much. They might have facility, but they do not think much. But the children who are in the free environment, they are exposed to the challenges. When you expose the child to a challenger, that child become more comfortable, or a confident child.
Hmm.
If you This is like giving a child at home everything what child asks for, versus making the child to think how the resources come. If the child understands the implication of water, then child will not having the water, then child will think of conservation. If the child can spend a day without electricity, then child will think of importance of the electricity. If the child can may think of how to minimize the waste, before you have to tell what are the implications of the waste mismanagement, then child, all this learning can come from our surrounding, the environment.
And when we are living it ourselves.
Yes, but if you send a child to a school in a closed environment, in a bus, pack that child and dump that in a school and again bring back and make the child to be in the apartment, then where is the child? Child has lost the freedom. As I said, that academic freedom has made us to think in an institution like ISC.
Hmm.
Similarly, the freedom at home for the children make the child to share. When you deprive the child the freedom, the child become a slave of the gadgets like mobile, television, etc. I would say that child will end up as a dumb child, a dumb
Hmm.
youth. That is not the country required. The child might have become expert in sending the chat messages or the WhatsApp messages, but child is of no use to the country or to the world. So
What you're sharing is.
that is where, as a mother, if every mother thinks the way I have been proposing, then probably she or he will make sure the child gets the required freedom, freedom to think, freedom to learn, not constrained by the environment where you're forced to learn certain things. You know that today you have competitive exams. There are commercial institutions, the packages where children are burdened with the learning. But when I talk to those children, how they have been trained, they have not learned much. They only know how to crack the question in the exam. But as a human being, they have failed. That's
Hmm.
why the children, they might do well in the competitive exam, but when they join a higher studies institution, they start failing. Then they think of they undergo the depression, then suicide, all those things happen. If you had given the freedom to the child to think, probably the child will never go depressed. So that's what we need to do it. But in the
Yeah.
name, like our country is thinking of development, GDP, we are
Hmm.
also thinking of making our child to earn. We have not asked the child to become a good human being, which my generation, my parents did that. They said that even if you don't earn, you be a good human being. Because of you, no one
Sure.
else should be affected. But today, we tell the children, at the cost of neighbors, you try to survive. That is the path which is not appropriate for the Indians, and we should stop that kind of stuff. In fact, that is where, in fact, I should give you another example. We go to the field to collect the data. In fact, I also spend a lot of time going to the field in Western Ghats in Bangalore Lake to understand the thing. When you understand the problem, you can solve the problem.
Yes.
Once when I went to the Belandur and Vartur Lake, my students have gone down to collect the water sample and soil sample. I was still on the shoreline. I was just getting down. Then I saw a person comes in a BMW, well dressed youth comes in a BMW. I will not mention the gender, and throws a polythene bag to the lake. Then I called the person. I said, "This is not the place to dump your solid waste. This is a lake." That person asked me, "This is a place I am supposed to throw my garbage." And that person just left the scene. Then I realized that had we given the right education to that person when that person was young, probably we wouldn't have faced the situation. The second instance is that in the same year, I noticed a couple comes in a vehicle, two-wheeler. They have jailed the Ganesha in the polythene bag.
Hmm.
I remember when I was a kid, my parents had all the reverence to the, when Visarjana is done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I saw that polythene, the, the Ganesha idol is bound in the polythene bag, was thrown into the septic tank, the Vattura Belandur, which is highly contaminated. There is no ritual. People have started practicing the festivals just for the
Mindlessly.
sake of the thing, like machines, than without understanding the essence of that.
Yes.
See, we all thought that when we practice, we will have culture. When we
Hmm.
have culture, we become more sensible and responsible. That's where the festivals are celebrated at home, not just an occasion to celebrate, but also to learn from them. So
Hmm.
that how the community can live together, how the happiness can be shared among everyone. But today that
Hmm.
is missing in our system. The festivals are celebrated in the hotel. It has become just a ritual.
Yeah.
It is not the means for learning.
As you said,
The
the
day we
essence of it
stop
is.
learning, we will never shine in the system. We should make everyone to learn, even at the age of 10 or 50 or 70. Learning should never stop. When we learn from the society, we become more successful and more, sensible. So more humble. That's what the country requires. Humble youth with responsibilities understood probably will be an asset to the nation. That's what we need to create, and we make sure that every citizen in the country follow the true principles of the Indians, ethos in India or Indian. So I hope the education system now with the transformation with the form of new education policy might push what I have been talking. Make the
Yeah.
child to learn, not make the child to become a bookworm. We don't want the insight. We want the child who has learned and do something. The
This
insect should
reminds me of
stay away
what
from
you have. This reminds me of your works, the monoculture versus the polyculture. It's like
that's
our
true.
current education system is making us more monoculture wise, versus the naturally when you kind of let them be like what you shared about 34,000 per hectare to 1 lakh and 54. Is it?
54,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the difference. That's the same thing. If we apply it, we are actually kind of machinizing, industrializing the education and the way we feed our children with knowledge as well.
Yeah, but
That's
I
something like a
hope the new
monoculture.
education policy that has come out recently, the emphasis on skills and learning.
Yeah.
But I hope the commercial institutions, so-called so many mushroomed organization in Bangalore and other cities, will take this new education policy in a right spirit and make the child to learn. See, when I get into the teaching, as a teacher, the teaching is a noble profession. I need to sacrifice. When I sacrifice, I can do the teaching job effectively. If I start thinking or comparing myself with a person working in industry or a bank, then probably I'm not doing a justice for my profession. So I would urge the teachers who are doing a noble profession, maintain the sanctity of the profession. Think of each child. See C.V. Raman or the C.N.R. Rao in that child. Then tomorrow
Beautiful.
you have your child for the country and for the globe.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So one really last question. Okay. After that, we can close it. What is your aspiration for 50 years from now? So what is your aspiration? We are at 2021. So what is your aspiration for 2071?
No, I'm thinking of the next 10 or 15 years. I said that 65% of the youth plus enough resources, if I harvest it, we have done the job for the country. Let us
Beautiful.
sensitize. See, the seeds of knowledge has to be sown at the right age. If we do it today, still it is not too late. So we'll have the country with a sensible youth who will take the country forward. Give the
So this
right
is the
education.
time then.
Yeah, this is the time. Give the right education. Make the child responsible. Don't make the child greedy. Make the child responsible. Then the child will start thinking of family and also the country. When you make the child think of engineer or a doctor or a other profession which gives them more money, then you are just generating the machine.
Hmm.
So if we teach or make the child have the knowledge of environmental concepts, we have done our job. Environmental
Beautiful.
knowledge with Indian culture will make everyone successful. That's what we should be looking for. You might have a definition of the success. I would say if you sleep happily, you have led a successful life. If you are struggling to sleep, then that life has no meaning at all.
It's worthless. Yeah. I loved what you said about environmental knowledge and the values part of it, putting these two in as the secret to success. Thank you so much, sir. And honestly, it's been a great interaction. The whole intention of the series is to really inspire people to live their lives in line with their own core purpose. And what's so beautiful is you brought those aspects so many times of, kind of connecting to the deep values and connecting to their own strengths and bringing that, because you have been doing that in yourself. Dhananjay Kulkarni has written great inspiration, your fearless work. I'll just show this. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
he is a student. He did the course under me.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much, sir, for being such an inspiration. And yes, I hope to break this video into
But
smaller
it is
bits
a
and share
question
it.
of what a warrior.
It's just like, if it's okay with you, I'm more happy about, kind of this thing. Yes, sir. Please share about your insights of being a water warrior.
No, one other thing, the Bangalore should learn to have their own water. You might question me. Let us catch rain. See, when rains in Bangalore, we get 700 to 800 millimeter rainfall. Okay, if you harvest the rainwater, you have 15 TMC of water. Bangaloreans require 18 TMC of water, which means 70% of the water required for Bangalore is available in the form of rain. Now, to harvest the rainwater, there are two ways. One is if you have a rooftop harvesting, individual houses will have the additional 3 to 4 months of water per family. The best option is to harvest the rainwater through the lakes. When you rejuvenate the lake and retain the rainwater, groundwater will never get contaminated. That is the first thing. Second thing is if Bangaloreans are using 18 TMC of water, we are also generating wastewater of 18 TMC. If we treat that wastewater, taking the model what we have put at Jakkur Lake, constructed wetland along with the secondary treatment plant, which will remove the chemical ion as well as the nutrient. Jakkur Lake doesn't have the nutrient problem today,
Hmm.
and this is a successful model. Okay, now You might ask, how do you know the success of that? Way back in 2005, my work shows surrounding this lake, there are wells which had nitrate. Nitrate gets into the borewell. That is because when you feed sewage into the lake with the nitrogen, N and P, N gets into the
Mhm.
sewage because we all eat protein. P gets in because we all wash cloth with detergent.
Mhm.
So these are the things when raw sewage gets into the lake, naturally when it moves to the groundwater, it becomes nitrate, which is a carcinogen. That means it introduces cancer. Now, what we did is I was in the committee of that, the lake rejuvenation. I pushed the agenda of integrating the constructed wetland and algal pond along with the secondary treatment plant. The secondary treatment plant will remove the chemical ion, while this constructed wetland algal pond removes the nutrient. And today there are 300 plus borewells in the vicinity of that lake. None
Wow.
of them have the nitrate. Okay, which means my technology has given the solution to at least 300 people in
Hmm.
Bangalore. Now,
Beautiful.
if this model is replicated, the entire Bangalore gets the benefit.
Hmm.
18 TMC of wastewater, if we treat it, we'll have 16 TMC of treated water. That means 15 TMC because of rainwater harvesting, 16 TMC because of the wastewater treatment. We have 31 TMC. That means we have a surplus situation. But this surplus
Beautiful.
situation we can achieve only if we have the 5R formula. What is this 5R which I have proposed? First R is responsible citizen. That is what I talked about in my previous this. When people are responsible, they will rejuvenate the lake. They will never pollute the lake. So when the lake is rejuvenated, we retain the rainwater. In the process, we have the sustenance of resources in Bangalore. I have created lake in the IIC campus, which stores 10 lakh liters of water. You know how much water I consume at home? 500
Hmm.
liters a day. In a year, it comes to 1 lakh 50,000. 10 times that water is collected in the lake that is created by me at IIC. That means what I am consuming or my family is consuming, we are giving it back to the system 10 times. If every Indian gives back to the system 10 times what they have consumed, there won't be any scarcity, there will be sustainability in it. You can achieve sustainability through these simple measures. That's what we should
Beautiful.
be doing it. These are all simple techniques. When
So
you do
you
that,
spoke about first R, that is responsibility. What are the others, sir, if you don't mind?
first or is the responsible citizen.
Mm-hmm.
When people are responsible, they'll rejuvenate the lake. Then they
Mm-hmm.
will retain the rainwater.
Mm-hmm.
Then they will allow the recycle reuse of wastewater.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, every fellow will ask me, why do you make Bangalorean to use the, the treated water or the wastewater? I asked Bangalorean a simple question. Show me one Bangalorean who has not tasted sewage. We are all getting Kaveri water. If you trace the Kaveri path, there is a large amount of sewage getting into the Bangalore through the Kaveri. We are drinking the sewage of Mysoreans. Instead of that, let us treat our sewage and have a better situation so that better tomorrow we have sufficient resources. So criticism is okay, but we should also think about, see, now this water is going to Tamil Nadu and other parts. Are they not human beings? So this is what we need. Our people in the vicinity of Bellandur and Vartur, they have been made to drink this polluted water, polluted food, etc. Are they not citizens of this country? This is what the people understood when they started interacting with me. Today, if we are talking of rejuvenating a very big lake in Bangalore, Bellandur and Vartur, the success is mainly because of the public.
Yes.
Because of the public active participation, there is a success. Jakkur is another good example of the public participation. The day when public do not participate in managing natural resources, you are allowing the system to encroach, you are
Mm-hmm.
allowing the looters to take away the resources. The day when we take active part, there won't be any pilferages. I
Mm-hmm.
look forward for everyone to take active part in making sure the natural resources are available to our next generation. in a good condition, clean condition. If we do
True.
that, we have achieved the success. That's what I'm looking for. Whatever the mistake my elders have done by polluting, etc., or my generation has done, let us not allow that to continue. That is where, with the spinal cord, we have started questioning the system, and Bangalore has the distinction of having the highest number of treatment plants today. If you go and talk to any officials in the BWSSC, they will give a credit to ISC. Had I not
Beautiful.
criticized that, today Bangalore would have been like any other city with the sewage getting into the system. That today we are also thinking of giving this water treated to other districts. So that means we have succeeded to some extent. Lot to be done. I'm sure with many youngsters we will do that and we will have a better tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Indeed, it was such an eye-opening show. Yeah, lot of deep insights. Thank you so much, and we're so honored to have scientists at IISc like you and others who are deeply contributing. Like as you said, though you are in the ivory tower, but still, actually touching people and their problems. And IISc has always been very open about it. So thank you for kind of sharing your insights, and we look forward to a lot of collaboration and partnership with you in making Bangalore better, making our country better, and you know wishing all our youth a greater place to live. So thank you very much, sir.
Okay, I thank you. I'm sure as ambassador of this knowledge, you will take it forward. I
Thank
wish
you,
you
sir.
the success in your career also, and
Thank
I
you, sir.
hope you will also make many youngsters get benefited by this kind of interactive
Yes,
session.
sir. So
So
this is the
that,
intention. So it's
yes,
like
yes,
even if one person can draw a line of inspiration from you, and if that stirs something deep insights for them to take on an action and to be that aspiration that they want to be. So that's the intention of this series. And
that I will agree with you. Especially when you people take it, you really mean it. When
exactly,
women does it, maybe here I have to talk about gender. There is a honesty and sincerity in your action.
yeah,
So I want many more youngsters like you to take this idea forward, or at least make our children understand about the thing. We have solved the country's problem.
exactly,
The
sir. As you
problem at
said,
home, if we solve it, we have solved the country's problem. Let me
yeah.
also acknowledge the support given by my family, my spouse. So had he not cooperated, probably I would have ended like another husband on the earth.
Thank you, sir.
So
Thank you
thank
so
you very
much.
much.
And thank you for your
Thank
family
you.
as well and for the institute as well. Thank you so much,
Sure,
sir.
sure.
Bye.
Thank you.